Would you want a surgeon's opinion from the 1930s for your 2025 operation?
Hell no. Hell no. In fact, I didn't keep any of my nursing books from 1980. They're not relevant anymore. You don't look at stuff from the 30s in medicine, especially. No.
I'm literally dying. Like, what do you mean? Can I have a surgeon's opinion from the 1930s? Oh, there's a death risk? There's
No.
risks of death with my condition? Can I have a 1930s opinion?
Right.
Hello and welcome to the Sobriety Bestie podcast. I am super excited you're here today for another great episode with Carrie. Carrie has a Substack she writes on. I will link that below if you want to follow her over there. She has a lot of great thoughts on deconstructing AA. She is back on the podcast today for another Big Book Deconstruction episode. We are deconstructing the Big Book, and today we got a doozy of a chapter called The Doctor's Opinion, and Carrie and I have quite a few opinions too. So we are gonna dive on in because I feel like this chapter out of all of them is the one that imprisons us the most. This is the one that like locks us into the mind fuckery that keeps us trapped like forever. What do you think, Carrie, just overall about this chapter?
I totally blame Dr. Silkworth for the success of Alcoholics Anonymous because, as you know, Bill was trying to go out and heal other alcoholics and bring them into his way of thinking, and he was leading with God. And Dr. Silkworth said, "Don't do that. Lead with they're going to die. Lead with this." And then he made up some medical BS that's simply unscientific, not proven, no, not evidence based at all. And we are still following that. And so Dr. Silkworth, and I know that Dr. Silkworth was a devout Christian himself. And if you look into him at all, you'll find that at one point, Dr. Silkworth had a patient named Charles who he couldn't help. And he told Charles finally, "Listen, I think that you need to see a different physician." And Charles is like, "Well, I don't know if I can afford another physician." And he's like, "Oh, this physician doesn't want your money. He just wants your life. And it's Jesus Christ. And his office is in the New Testament." So Dr. Silkworth was into converting people into Christianity. Bottom line, that's what he believed. When he
Yeah.
talks about moral psychology, he means religious conversion. He means that you have to
Mm.
recommit yourself to Jesus Christ, period. But he doesn't say that. But
Yeah.
that's what he means. A lot
And
of,
I think there's nothing wrong with converting people into religion if you are honest and upfront about what it is. Like
mhm.
if you want to walk into a church and get converted into a religion, great. The problem is that Dr. Silkworth is not a priest or a minister.
No, no, he's not. And the problem is I think I've heard you say this too. When I got to AA, I said, "This is a cult and this is too religious for me." And everybody said, "It's not a cult and you can choose your own concept of God and it's not a religion, it's not a cult." And so eventually I bought that and I feel really silly for that. And people have commented like, "Why did Carrie pay for her sponsor's phone bill? Why did Carrie put AA over her kids?" I don't know. I mean, it's just what I thought I had to do. And the people that
Mm.
I dealt with in Alcoholics Anonymous, they're very charismatic. And I got sucked in. I got sucked in. I was vulnerable. So that's why. So yeah, do I feel like a fool today? Hell yes, I do. I feel foolish.
Yeah. What's that quote? It's something around people would rather continue to be fooled than to realize they've been fooled, something like that. It takes a lot to realize that you've been played
Hmm.
and to wake up and critically think and move on. And I think most people would rather not even look at it. They would
Yeah.
rather just stay trapped in the ideology. And I don't even know how much of that's a conscious choice. It's really brave to be like, oh my God, what the heck have I been believing? And then to go through it all. Like, I had a commenter who they were kind of poking fun at me like in a kind way, and I appreciated it because they had a good point. I always appreciate like good thinking, you know. I don't appreciate just like BS thinking with abuse. I'm like, come on, this is boring. But I
Right.
had a commenter this morning who was like, your points here are that AA is BS, baloney, and a cult. Would you say that those are the three metrics I should be looking at when I deconstruct? I'm like, ha ha. No, those are my opinions based upon my deconstruction journey. and and so I wrote them. I was like, you know what? What I actually did though is I wrote down like it was the day or the evening that I popped out of AA, like ideology. I went through the book and I was writing a sales letter because I realized Bill was a salesman and what the fuck did he sell me? And so I was writing the AA program, like, you know, the program back and front, like, right? You know, so do I because we've been in it, we've studied the book. But so I wrote the AA program as a sales letter. And when I was doing that, I was writing down all the things that he had to convince me to believe in order for me to get locked into the ideology. Starting with the first belief that I felt like was the core belief that I was powerless. Because
Mm-hmm.
if I can believe that I'm powerless, then I need a higher power. And then because I need a higher power, then I need to do all of Bill's steps. I need to then the dominoes fall and I need to do everything. Everything else kind of falls into place. So I literally wrote down all the things that I had to believe in AA or that I was coerced into believing or indoctrinated into believing, like that I have a disease, that it is fatal and progressive, that it is forever, that I need to, and the solution is to go to church basements and listen to people parrot from the book. You know, like all these different things that I had to then believe. So I wrote down all the things that AA convinced me that I had to believe. AA is not a cult. AA is not a religion. These were things that I was convinced to believe when I got to AA. And then I looked at all the beliefs that AA installed into me and I went one by one and I was like, do I believe that this is true now? Do I find evidence in the real world to prove this? Is there any contradicting evidence here? Like, is it fundamentally true that alcoholism is a disease? Or let's just even start at the top. Is alcoholism even a freaking thing? Can you be diagnosed this in the United States of America? When was the last time medical doctors in general use this term as a like a viable as an actual diagnosis? So after I went one by one through all of the beliefs that I was indoctrinated into believing, then I concluded it's BS, it's a cult, it's baloney.
Yeah.
So the point isn't that it's BS, baloney, and a cult. That's my easy, simple way of saying it. The point is that I went through all the things that I
Mm-hmm.
was told to believe. And I really recommend that to anybody. What is it that you were convinced to believe when you got to the group, anywhere?
Mm-hmm.
Look at all your beliefs, you know, if you want. But AA convinced me to believe a huge handful of things. And so one by one, I went through and I did lots of research to pop each belief very critically and logically. My thing isn't AA's baloney, period. It's like, no, that's also baloney, just to say it like that. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
no, I let the everything logically, and then I concluded, oh, it's all shit. It's not true.
Right, right. I did the same thing. That's when I went through all my journals where I had, because I was like a note taker. I would go to conferences and I would listen to speakers and I would take notes. I was always writing down what they said and I was always thinking, oh, I got to remember that. Oh, I got to remember that. And I went through all those notebooks and I'm talking, 30 years of notebooks. And I looked at each one and critically thought, do I really believe this? Or have I just been taught to believe this? Because you tell yourself something, you believe a belief long enough and it becomes part of your belief system, and it's like, okay, I believe that. Like I believed in alcoholism. I believed it was a disease. I believed it was fatal and progressive. I believed that I had to devote my life to AA and save other that the only way in fact that I could live and stay sober was by
Mhm.
saving other alcoholic women. And you know Bill was my hero and so was Dr. Silkworth. As a medical person, as a nurse,
Mhm.
I'm like, yeah, it's hard. It must have been hard for him back to take care of alcoholics when there was no AA. Dr. Silkworth was at the hospital, and the nurses, I would really, look at the nurses and think they would get beat up. It was hard to be a nurse in that hospital, in any hospital, actually. But back then, before there was any chemical restraints, there was a lot of abuse. And I would think, Bill's my hero. Those nurses are my heroes. Dr. Silkworth is my
Mhm.
hero. And, I don't have very many heroes. My dad was my hero. My dad, um, he died by suicide in 2009. he had a terminal cancer that he had watched his dad and his younger brother die of. And when he got the news that that cancer had returned, he hung himself. And actually, I don't blame him. He was always my hero. And he had lost his arms in an electrical accident when he was in his 20s. So he had two prosthetic arms. And I grew up with my dad never seeing his hands, just his hooks. But he never let that stop him from doing anything he wanted to do, riding a bike. He was an artist. In fact, there's a painting hanging behind me here that my dad did, and
Mm.
I hang it there. And this is a desk where I write to remind me that you don't have to be perfect to create something beautiful. So I can write here and I
Mm.
don't have to be perfect because my dad certainly wasn't perfect. But then, my dad's never fallen off my pedestal, his pedestal, even though God knows he wasn't perfect. But I was really sad when I finally let myself acknowledge the truth about Bill, about Dr. Silkworth, and about AA, how I had been lied to and manipulated for their benefit, period. And that this was all about finding God. And it wasn't even about getting sober. I mean, that wasn't really what the whole program was about. It was about, they got to find God. So yeah, that I get just emotional. This is a really emotional um topic for me, to lose your heroes. you know, and just
Yeah. That's really I feel really touched. Thank you for sharing that.
yeah, well, whew, that was heavy. Sorry about that. But, uh,
You're right. You're right. We looked up to these people and they
mhm,
didn't need to be perfect, but they flat out lied to us the entire time. It's different than not being perfect.
right.
It's different than noticing they have character defects or that they're an imperfect human like everybody else. They deliberately lied to us from the start, and it was Dr. Silkworth that initiated that
Hmm.
by thanks for the reminder that he's the one who told Bill, nobody's getting sober these first 6 months you've been trying. Stop preaching, stop leading with God.
Hmm.
Lead with, it's a fatal progressive disease. It's going to kill you. Tell them they have a disease and it wants you dead.
Hmm.
That was Dr. Silkworth. And that's the reason why we listened. In the beginning of our chat today, you said something around you were so focused on AA that you didn't show up for your kids as much as you obviously would have if you weren't in a cult religion. And
Hmm.
it's because we thought we were going to die. That's why we devoted all of our attention and energy, or not all of it, but a lot of it. It's literally because of phobia indoctrination.
Hmm.
We were indoctrinated daily with you are going to die if you're going to leave. I got another commenter who's all up on my YouTube the past couple of days. He's coming up on 50 years of sobriety in 2 months, which is amazing. Half a century, that's great. But his attitude it's a spiritual superiority that you can't see when you're in it. And his attitude is like he's doing it right. I'm the one causing harm by having dissenting videos, and it can't be a cult because there's no leader and they don't keep you from leaving. And I was like, actually, my leader told me if I left, I would die. Okay. My
Hmm.
leader, I called her my sponsor. And there was a lot of leadership. There's a whole hierarchy, with Bill and Bob at the top of or I'd say Bill at the top of the hierarchy and Dr. Silkworth and Bob or whatever. And then there's a hierarchy all the way down. There's a lot of leadership. We were led by the secretary or the chair of the meeting. We were led by the old timers in the meeting or the arrogant pricks in the meeting who,
Hmm.
were constantly sharing or oversharing. I was led, the sponsors are leaders, random people who are being of service are leaders to
Hmm.
newcomers or anybody who's taking initiative is leading. The book is leading us through this program. There's leadership everywhere. I don't fault him because when I was inside AA ideology, I couldn't see this. And I also used my time as I felt, statusy with my time. Oh, I have this much time sobriety. Like he's saying, I'm 50 years sober, which is incredible, but it doesn't mean that you're better than me in my
Hmm.
life currently. I can be happy for you without having to turn my authority over to you. That's how I feel about it. You're not an authority over me because you have that. It's
Hmm.
great that you have that. Like, I'm proud of you. I'm happy for you. But it doesn't mean that your opinion means more than my opinion in my mind. It means that in your mind because you're in
Right.
the ideology. But I was like, actually, my leader, my sponsor, told me that I would die if I left the meeting. She told me in no uncertain terms that if I was going to leave, it means jails, institutions, or death. I also was indoctrinated by lots of leaders throughout the meeting, like the old timers, whoever, would they would constantly say at meetings that to leave essentially is to die. And he's like, wow, sounds like you were in militant AA meetings. Those happen, and we all know about that. That's not
Hmm.
been my experience. I've never heard that you'll die if you leave. So then I wrote him back. And I'm like, are you telling me that in 50 years of meetings, you never heard once that the threat of leaving means jails, institutions, or death? And then what happens? Crick fucking it's nothing. Crickets.
Right.
Because I'm just being logical.
Right.
You're acting like you're better than me, and I get it. I've been there, and I have arrogance too. I got that. We all have all the traits, right? Just in varying degrees. It's a spectrum, all of them, right? But I'm not thinking I'm better than you. I'm just trying to rationally have a conversation, and you're kind of like in crazy town. No leadership. Oh, what he said was, he's like, there's no leaders, there's only trusted servants. Calling leaders trusted servants to pretend that they're not leaders is called doublespeak, and it's very
Hmm.
1984 vibes.
Totally.
Rebranding the term so that it's not the thing.
Right.
Yeah, he's like, it's not a cult, there's no leaders, it's trusted servants. I'm like, what? You had a good point too right before we hit record about we need a new Marty Mann.
We do. We do. We need somebody going around spreading the scientific, evidence-based research about recovery and spreading that it's substance use disorder and that you can maybe drink like normal people and that you don't have to go to AA and that there's other programs. We just need somebody out there touting that, and we don't have
Mm.
anybody that they don't get very far. And the reason, if you are somebody who wants to go talk about it like Marty Mann did, nobody will listen to you. In fact, you're a threat to them, even if they're not in AA. Even if you're not in AA, and even if you like go to AI and ask them certain questions, they'll support AA. AI, because they just pull all that stuff that they find, unless you say what are the negative things about AA,
Yeah.
so I guess it's just rampant. It's everywhere. Support for AA, even if no one's even been to AA, they still support it. And that's the problem. You can't talk, if you're a criminal and you get sent to AA, you know, then you have criminals in AA. And that's another thing. I know for a fact that there were people in my AA meetings that had gotten out of jail and out of prisons. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing to be in jail or in prison, but I do know, like, what were their offenses? Like, are they sending domestic abusers there? Are they sending child abusers to AA? Yes. That's really scary to think about who you might be sitting in an AA meeting with, because I know there are very vulnerable men and women there. Not just men, I mean, not just women, there are vulnerable men there too who have been taken advantage of over and over and over again. And the people that run the meetings, the elders, they say it'll work it out. This is what I've heard. If it's not of God, it won't last. So just wait, Carrie. That person will leave, or they'll either get sober and get right thinking, or they'll go back and drink or go back to jail. So you just have to wait it out and just kind of put up with it. And in the meantime, hope they don't hurt anybody. And
What a
so
way to avoid responsibility.
that's what AA does, though, at the meeting level, the district level, and at GSO and everywhere. They don't do anything to help with this problem. I like your idea, and other people have brought this up as well. Sure, if you're going to send somebody to AA, court order them, or if you send somebody from a treatment center to AA, a disclaimer. They got to know that this is truly about finding God. They got to
Hmm.
know that it
Yeah.
could be dangerous. They got to know that they're going to tell you that you're powerless, which isn't really
Hmm.
true, but you can buy it if you want to, and you probably will get sober, but you'll get sucked into a cult where they'll want you to stay for the rest of your life. So I think if I could have some informed consent and say, yeah, I want to do that. I want to go join a
Yep.
cult. I mean, that's your business then, but they don't. They just send you there saying, these people will help you for free. All you got to do is have a desire to stop drinking, show up, not drink, and they'll teach you how to stay sober and they'll take care of you. I even think about my sister who lives in Olympia, Washington. There was a time when she was really struggling with addiction. And I just kept saying, find a meeting, find a meeting, find a meeting, because all I knew, and I know this to be true today, there are women there that will help you take your call, pick you up, listen to your story, and give you suggestions, and now I just know. And my sister, I will say, never got sucked into the cult of AA like I did, or nor did her husband, who has like 40 years sober. I don't think he goes to AA anymore. But anyway, that's where I sent people that I cared about. That's where I sent people that I
Yeah.
loved. I sent them to AA.
Okay, so I was in AA 10 years and I left 5 years ago. How long were you in AA? Let's remind us all, and anybody who's new to you. And then
Mhm.
also, how long were you working in the field of addiction?
I attended AA meetings regularly for 32 years. I left in 2021. I worked in the field of addiction for many years at a VA hospital. I did other things as well, but I spent several years working in addiction field, post-traumatic stress disorder, homelessness, mental illness, and addiction all put together, and the veterans would come and stay there. So it was a program where they could stay for 30, 60, 90 days and it was multidisciplinary. So fortunately, they didn't just have to listen to me. They got a lot of other trained professionals in CBT, DBT, EMDR,
Mm.
all the newest. I mean, I will put a plug in for the VA. They're always on the cutting edge of treatment, but they still send people to AA. But I'm not so sure anymore. They say they have to go. I'm not sure about that, but I think they do. It's all you can
Yeah.
say. When I would make a treatment plan, because I was a case manager, and so I would meet with a veteran, I would talk to them, and part of their treatment plan was to go to AA meetings, and I would put it on their schedule what AA meetings they had to go to. I didn't say, do you want to go? Or it was just, you have to go to these meetings. That's on your schedule. And they had to, if they did it, then they were non-compliant with their treatment plan. Maybe they'd get kicked out even. So it's a big deal.
It's brutal. When you were talking before about people who are mandated to AA or the kind of predators that might be in AA that we never think about it, it's a weird topic, but I've recently taken interest in serial killers because
Mhm.
I was looking at cult leaders and that morphed into like Charles Manson was a cult leader, but he was also programming people through his mind control into serial killing, basically. And I've come across some different, I mean, I don't know all their names. Like last night, I watched the Zodiac documentary.
Mhm.
And so I'm starting to familiarize myself with more of predators beyond just cult leaders. To me, I think it's really helpful so that I can understand and protect myself because part of me is like, I fell prey to a cult for a decade, right? And so, what is it about manipulation? How do they get you? What do they do? What to look out for? So, looking for the warning signs. But in my looking at just predators in general, and then specifically cult leaders, but predators, there's actually been a handful of serial killers that have gone to Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yes.
That's shocking to me.
Yes.
So You know what? They go everywhere, right? These
Hmm.
people go predators go everywhere. So it's not like they wouldn't go to AA also, but there may be more overlap that they would end up being an addiction or court order there before that they're convicted or known. They wouldn't send a known serial killer to AA. Let's be clear, they would lock them up.
Yes.
But you never know who's sitting next to you. You never
Mm-mm.
know who's sponsoring you. You never know. And so that's why discernment is so important. And when they knock it out of you that you shouldn't be trusting yourself in the slowly eroding of your self trust by telling you to depend upon the sponsor of the group and a higher power. So you're outsourcing your agency. It might make you more compliant with the people who are more nefarious inside the groups. And so I think it's just a warning in general to when you're in a high control system like that, for anybody who's watching or listening and still going, it's trust yourself. If someone feels sketchy,
Hmm.
trust that. Get the heck
Trust it.
away. Yeah, there's predators in there. And if it feels wrong, it is wrong, period, you know? And
Hmm.
I always take that. Like, I don't need to announce it to the world that somebody feels wrong or off for me, but I just know it for myself and create my own boundaries, even if it's just
Yeah.
stepping away or whatever. And yeah, there are criminals and predators in there. I'm not shaming them. I'm just saying, trust yourself. If you are in a place where there's predators, be cautious.
Yes. Yes. Because if it's very likely, or it's highly likely, if they're court ordered there, especially, they're not there by choice. So what are they going to do
Right.
while they're there? They're going to like check out the young women and young men that are in the meetings. They're going to check out who's vulnerable. They're going to see who can give them something they need, whether that be a ride. I've given lots of men and women rides places that weren't just to meetings, because I felt
Yeah.
like I needed to, or I should. It was the right thing to do. They're trying to get their life together. Yes, I'll take you to the grocery store. Yes, I'll take you to the laundromat. Yes, I'll take you here and there and everywhere, and then someday, this is what I would tell them, you can pass that on. You can do the same for somebody
Yeah.
else. Whatever I do for you, then someday you can do it for the people that you sponsor, and pass it on. And I'm still that kind of a person. If you were walking on the
Yeah.
road, I'd probably pick you up and give you a ride. I mean, I'm not um, against helping our neighbors, or being a kind person, or being and helping people. I'm even retired, so I even have more time to take somebody somewhere. But in Alcoholics Anonymous, they know there are people in Alcoholics Anonymous, members that are in and out, members that are new, that members that have been there for years and years and years, that know that members in Alcoholics Anonymous won't say no. And they'll ask you to do things that they
Mhm.
might not ask their family or anybody or a friend, because you're in AA, and you're taught to never say no to an AA request. Well, they don't necessarily clarify what that means. Like, never say no to an AA request means, you know, take them, talk to them if they're struggling. But it doesn't mean you have to take them to the fucking grocery store, or give them money, or do anything. I had a sponsee one time, and I was getting ready to go on a trip. My wife and I laugh about this because she's like, "Bring me something back," and I'm like, "What do you want? Bring you something back from my vacation?" I got to be friends with the women I sponsored. Now, that's another thing. My sponsors, like, they aren't your friends. They are your sponsees. So you have to keep that line there. You don't want to get too close to them. And I'm like, I can't just help somebody and keep them at arm's length. I can in a
Yeah.
professional setting, but this is my life. And so I don't know. It's just fucked up, Kirsten. It's just
Yeah.
really fucked up. And I'm sad that I've got so many friends who still go to AA that I love. I mean, because I can't know somebody for 30 years and be in on births and deaths and weddings and life, spend my life with people and not care deeply about them. And it makes me sad that they're still believing Bill's bullshit, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Even you having the courage and the to hit record and let this go on the internet, you're reaching them if they're interested. If they're friends with you and it's out there and they see you, you know, there's only so much we can do, right? Because obviously there's some people that I wish I could, you know, help them leave AA because I care about them. But if I were to do that, it's the other side of the coin of Alcoholics Anonymous. Now I'm trying to make you convince you to believe something even though it's reality and not the ideology, or not the harmful, cult religion. It's still like, I fundamentally believe in freedom, which means
Yes.
that we should be able to choose. But I also like what you said earlier, informed consent. We don't even know what we're choosing when we're in
Mm-mm.
AA, or that we even chose something. It's that frog in water. We're slowly getting indoctrinated into this learned helplessness and this getting trapped. So yeah, it's insidious. It's cunning, baffling, and powerful, that AA ideology, isn't it, Carrie?
Yes, it is.
I'm going to timestamp the video so anybody who wants to go straight to the doctor's opinion will be able to do that from the start. Do you want to kick
Well,
us off, or do you want me
well,
to?
first of all, I want to say that an opinion is an opinion. And you know what they say in AA? Everybody has an opinion and they're like assholes. Nobody wants to hear about yours. So it's an opinion, it's not a fact.
And he wasn't even well respected by his peers. He tried to get his work published and people were just not down with him at the
Mm-mm.
times. Now, this is what I read. Please, if anybody is here and watching on YouTube, there's comments below. Let me know where I'm wrong. If I say something, I always want to learn. I don't know all the things, and I'm
Right.
always open to changing my stance when I have more facts and
Mhm.
think critically about things. So, my understanding from what I read, which is primarily, I think this comes from what I read in the Orange Papers, which is great. So, if you don't know what the Orange Papers are, literally just Google Orange Papers or Orange Papers AA, and enjoy. Spend the next couple of months just getting free. It's great. But what I remember reading in the Orange Papers, it's that Dr. Silkworth wasn't even well respected by his peers at the time, couldn't get his work published. He had this whole allergy theory that he kind of made up based upon observational, like anecdotal experiences. I mean, that's my primary problem with Dr. Silkworth and Alcoholics Anonymous. They're taking a few anecdotal experiences and making them mean very serious, large scale consequences
Mhm.
for people that include death and entrapment and loss of agency based upon a
Sanity.
few people. Yeah. So I don't think that they were necessarily completely delusional, because it was, I feel like all delusion or all lies start from like a seed of truth. There was something there. They just made it mean something that it doesn't actually mean. They didn't make it up. They actually thought something like an allergy was happening or whatever.
Mhm.
Or they were using that as a metaphor to describe what was happening. So there's real phenomenon occurring. They're just putting their opinion on it as if it's fact that 90 years later we're still preaching as fact.
Right, right. We believe what we want to believe, and it's easy to grab onto an idea and go with it. And then if it feels right and people like it, just to keep saying it, but we all have such different perceptions and ideas and beliefs, and we make up the world as we go along. Outside of my window, I have a big um, walnut tree. And one time there was a lame deer. I have lots of deer on our property. We have 17 acres here in Iowa. And so I had a lame deer. And one day I look out and it was laying under the tree. And I convinced myself it was dead. And I was like, what am I going to do now? Am I going to call the game warden, or what do I have to do about this dead deer? And I was just beside myself. And I went off and I came back and the deer was gone. So, I mean, I was convinced that deer was dead, and it wasn't dead because I had told myself it was dead. And I think that Dr.
Mm.
Silkworth wanted to help Bill. He wanted to help alcoholics. There's no doubt in my mind
Yeah.
that he saw a lot of desperate people coming in there that were, with many different symptoms that were struggling, and families that were torn apart, because we know if you have a drinking problem, you can tear apart your family and your life. It does. I'm not minimizing substance use disorder. I had a brother who died never getting clean and sober. So I understand that it's a serious problem. But what I don't believe anymore is that it's a life sentence. And I don't believe I don't think it's a spiritual malady. And I don't think you need to find God. That's why Dr. Silkworth's peers didn't agree with him, because it wasn't based on medicine. It was all based on the supernatural. It was all about a
Mm,
spiritual malady and a moral psychology and basically finding God. And they were like, no, we can't
yeah.
get on board with that, doc. You know, sorry.
We have so many opinions about the doctor's opinion before. This is the preamble to the doctor's opinion, Carrie and Kirsten's opinion, preamble to the first edition of Carrie and Kirsten attempt to talk about the doctor's opinion. But it should be the doctor's opinions, first of all. That's the first mistake. Because there's a lot of opinions here.
A lot of opinions.
So they say, we of Alcoholics Anonymous believe that the reader will be interested in the medical estimate of the plan of recovery described in this book. Convincing testimony must surely come from medical men who have had experiences with the sufferings. Convincing testimony, no, I want scientific, I want like large scale evidence. If you're going to tell me I
Yes.
have a fatal progressive disease that's going to kill me and I have to have a religious conversion and a psychic change in order to survive and surrender my will and my life over to Bill's ideas, I want more than a convincing testimony. I want
Right.
like a large scale, like across time, like study of this. They should be
Hmm.
doing the study the entire 90 years since they started about. There's no reason why they shouldn't have 90 years of really solid data if they're going
Hmm.
to be saying things like convincing testimony must surely come to medical man. No, 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 no,
No.
no.
And
Um,
testimonies aren't facts either. Testimonies are just people's opinions based on their experiences and their perception of their experiences. I could have testified that that deer was dead for 25 minutes. I thought it was, but that doesn't make it a fact. In fact, it wasn't dead. It hobbled away.
did you change your opinion?
Yes, I did.
A
Uh,
well-known doctor. We don't give a fuck if he's well known. We want facts. We don't care about your fame. Facts over fame. Can we do facts over
yes,
fame?
facts over
A
fame.
well-known doctor, chief physician at a nationally prominent hospital specializing in alcoholic and drug addiction, gave Alcoholics Anonymous this letter. Before I read the letter, Carrie, if you were going to go have surgery and there was a lot of death associated with that kind of surgical procedure, just like there's a death associated with alcohol addiction, right? And let's just say that there's the same risks with this surgeon as there are with alcohol addiction. There are
Okay.
real risks, as we said, with death and alcohol addiction. Would you want a surgeon's opinion from the 1930s for your 2025 operation?
Hell no. Hell no. In fact, I didn't keep any of my nursing books from 1980. They're not relevant anymore because stuff changes. You don't look at stuff from the 30s and 40s in medicine, especially. No.
I'm literally dying. Like, what do you mean? Can I have a surgeon's opinion from the 1930s? Oh, there's a death risk? There's
No.
risks of death with my condition? Can I have a 1930s opinion?
Right. They would all be dead. You couldn't even go to one of them.
Oh my God.
I like how they have to really emphasize well-known doctor, chief physician, so he's the boss at a nationally prominent hospital specializing in alcoholic and drug addiction. Well, what else do we need? That's all the proof we need right there. I'm
We're
sold.
establishing authority. Bill was a salesman. He knew these tactics. So the Big Book was written in 19, maybe started to be written in the end of 1937. So Bill got sober December 1934, met Dr. Bob June, or met him in May 1935. Bill left the Oxford group in August 1937, and then shortly after that, so maybe the end of 37 or definitely in 1938, when Bill was about 3 or 4 years sober, wrote the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous with the other 100. We know it was like 82, under 100 members. So that's the timeline. It's the 1930s, right? And what do we know about what Hitler did in the 1920s when he was in prison? He wrote a book called, is it called Mein Kampf? Something like that. It's a German word. And he basically wrote a book on propaganda and how to do propaganda. He basically wrote the playbook for what he was about to do, but people didn't really think he was about to do that. But so we know that Bill had access to things like Hitler's propaganda playbook. We
Hmm.
know that.
Yep.
I'm
And the
not saying
Oxford
that
group.
Bill used it, but I am saying that Bill was a salesman and he was trying to make his program work because he believed he was helping people. I believe he wanted to succeed, but he also wanted to help people, right? Though both of those are true. Of course, he would use everything that he could at that time. Of
Yep.
course, he's using propaganda techniques and tools in here. So he's
Hmm.
appealing to authority right here as if authority means something more than
Yes.
facts. I don't care about authority. That's like a propaganda technique. I
Hmm.
care about facts. Tell me the facts of it. Not don't tell me how great you are and why I should believe you. I don't want to believe anything. I don't want to believe a 1930s surgeon if I'm getting surgery in 2025 on his opinion in the 1930s. I want the facts.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely.
What I read in the Orange Papers was that the town's hospital where Dr. Silkworth worked in New York gave Bill the money to publish the Big Book. So they were in bed together, meaning they were literally business partners. The funding of the book came from the hospital that they were accrediting the technique to, the allergy,
Right.
Dr. Silkworth's opinion and all of that. And I looked at that as, why would they want to invest in Bill's book? Well, it's going to bring them more business. If they are
Hmm.
currently using the doctor and the techniques that the book is promoting, that it's going to send business to their way. And they were a high-end detox or treatment center for alcohol addiction.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I totally believe that. Well, there's no doubt Bill was hoping to make money. He was a businessman. He was always looking and trying to
Yeah.
figure out how to make a dollar. And there's a lot of stories if you read the Good Old Timers and all the books, they talk about how they always had to reel in his thinking because Bill, this isn't about making money. But for Bill, it was always about making money. I mean, maybe saving people too,
Yeah.
but let's make money. The cost of a big book
Yeah.
back when it was published was extraordinary for the times,
Yeah. Yeah.
way more money than we today.
Totally. And I think Bill should make all the money in the world. You know what I mean? If I was in the 1930s, I'd say, go Bill. I'm all for entrepreneurship. I
Yes.
am all for businesses making money, especially if they are doing good. And he did want to do good or do well, right? And so I'm all for Bill becoming like a bazillionaire off of his idea. What I'm not for is the coercive control and the lying and the dishonesty
Hmm.
and the presenting opinions as facts and making it so extreme that it's fatal, progressive, forever recovery model, all that stuff. If Bill like didn't have that harm in his ideology, go make $1 million, go make 20 million bucks,
Totally.
50 million, bazillion, whatever. Bill, love it. Go sell your heart out. Go give Lois the best life she ever could have. Go do it, Bill. I'm all about it. Buy the entire state of New York. I'm all for
Hmm.
Bill becoming a billionaire. I'm a billionaire, okay? Billionaire. I'm into it. But just don't do it on the back of lies.
Hmm.
So, change the world and become wealthy beyond your wildest dreams, but not through lying to us.
Right.
So for me, it's the lies. It's not the money. I'm like, I don't care if you make money, but don't do it while you're lying. Don't do it as you're lying to me.
Well, and I think that's why I even bring up the money because I think that leaving it out is part of the lie. It just makes it seem like he's
Oh,
doing this all because God gave him a mission. And he would lead you to believe, and AA would lead you to believe that this was an avocation, of course, that we're not here to make money. But we all know that
right.
they do make
He
money.
died a millionaire and he never had a job after the first, I think, 5 years of his sobriety, where he dabbled in a couple other things, like when he went to the Mayflower Hotel and found Bob and stuff. He had a couple of other little side jobs or hustles or whatever he was doing. But at a certain point in I'd say the first 10, if not first 5 years of his sobriety, he was full-time AA and died a millionaire. So he was making money from the program. I honestly don't even have a problem with that. But it wasn't honest the way he even got the rights to the Big Book, or if he should have even had rights to the Big Book, or if the
Right.
other people who wrote the Big Book too should have had rights. And so he made the money off the rights of the book. And then he
Hmm.
gave them to his 90% to Lois and 10% to his mistress. But it just wasn't honest.
Yeah.
If he was ethical, billionaire. I'm all on team billionaire if it's
Yes.
ethical. If you're not ethical, then you're a con man. And that's a huge problem for me.
Hmm.
I really wouldn't mind him being rich off his Alcoholics Anonymous program. If he was, yeah, the books are $30, $20 of that's coming with me. I want a
Well,
big home. I'm like,
I tell
cool,
you what,
cool. Is it Is it still worth it to me? Do I still want the book? Because it doesn't matter what Bill does with the cash. Do I value the book?
Here's what I'm mad about. He should have, if he wanted us all to do his fucking work, we should have been getting paid too. That's what I'm mad about. I went to AA for 32 years. Where's my goddamn retirement? I should have got some money out of this, Bill. That's what I'm
There should
mad
be the
about.
old timer pension.
Yeah.
You need the old timer pension.
I need an old timer pension. I want reimbursed for all those miles of driving and all those hours. I could have been doing something else when I was talking to somebody in AA. That's what, and the groceries I bought on my own because I thought it was the right thing to do. I want reimbursed for my time and my effort and all the work I did, all that free labor, Bill. Where's my cut of that $1 million? I didn't get rich off this program at all. At all. In fact, I spent a
Exactly.
lot.
You know what I noticed about it too? It's not everybody was doing the responsibility prayer. Whenever the hand of AA reaches out, I am responsible, blah, 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 blah. Which is what the guy who's turning 50 in 2 months said. He's like, it's like, don't you? He's doing a guilt trip. I wish you would be there for the newcomer instead of making these videos. I'm like, thanks for the guilt trip, bro. He's like, I am responsible. I'm like, you can do what you want, but don't you tell me what I need to do with my life.
Right.
What I've noticed, it's not everybody who feels responsible or does the responsibility prayer in AA. There's the givers and the takers. And maybe it's a spectrum and not binary, but there were the takers, the people who tended to be more in the taker side of the spectrum, that were the ones demanding the rides, demanding the attention, demanding all the things to be done for them. And then there was the givers who are doing all the things for the ones that are demanding all the things. And that I thought we were supposed to like not be self-centered. I thought we were told we were all self-centered and we should get out of self as a solution and therefore help. So it's all underneath all of it is the death threat, right? I'm doing this so I can live, get my daily reprieve. Yeah, I get benefits. I feel good when I help. For sure, I'm having a biochemical experience that feels good in my body. I feel like I'm a good person. Would I do it otherwise? Maybe. The point isn't whether or not I would do a good deed. The point is I was coerced into doing it versus voluntarily choosing it. It wasn't a volunteer position. It was a coerced position. That's the problem with it. I don't care about volunteering your whole life and your time and driving and buying groceries if you're choosing it, but you're not choosing it when you're coerced. So I don't care. Man, be a billionaire, do volunteer service. It's the coercion and the lies that it's where it stems from. It comes from shitty soil. Like, it's not good. I don't mean like horse manure where that's good soil. I mean like poison.
Toxic
The bill
soil.
shit is poison. And so what would happen is what I noticed in the groups that I went to is the givers would feel burnt out from the takers because it was the same givers giving to the same takers, and then the takers would get mad that there was not enough givers to keep doing what they wanted. I'm like, bro, you're like 10 years sober and you're still demanding rights to every meeting, like, and you're mad that people aren't still doing that for you. Have you ever done that once for somebody else? No? Okay, shut the fuck up, sit down. I did see a whole givers versus takers like spectrum, but really two groups of people.
Well, I was thinking about the word volunteer, and in my line of sponsorship at one time when it was a hardcore sponsor, it was called voluntold. You didn't volunteer, you were voluntold to do something. And that happened a lot. And they still laugh about that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
volunteered. I didn't really volunteer. I was told to do it.
Yeah. I love that, by the way. Let's see if we can get through the doctor's letter. Let me dive in and read it. To whom it may concern, I have specialized in the treatment of alcoholism for many years. Nobody really cares. In late 1934, I attended a patient, that'd be Bill, who, though he had been a competent businessman of good earning capacity, go Bill, was an alcoholic of the type I had come to regard as hopeless. So the doctor's opinion is that Bill is hopeless. Mm-hmm. And he might have felt hopeless at that time, but it doesn't mean that he's forever hopeless. In the course of his third treatment, he acquired certain ideas. It sounds so vague. He acquired certain ideas concerning a possible means of recovery. No, he got indoctrinated into the cult religion by Ebby. Ebby was proselytizing to Bill Wilson for, like, some sources say a year, some sources say months, from the Oxford group. So he didn't acquire. He was coerced. He was indoctrinated. It's different. Acquire sounds passive. He was actively pursued. He was preyed upon. Like, he was targeted. He was targeted with certain ideas. Yeah, for possible recovery. As part of his rehabilitation, he commenced to present his conception to other alcoholics.
He believed that God was an answer, that he had a white light moment, and that he believed he had to go on and talk about this with other alcoholics, impressing upon them that they must do likewise with still others. So it's like, I'm going to tell you, then you got to tell Bob, and then you got to tell John if you guys want to live,
Yeah.
basically.
So some hopeless nut job goes into the rehab for the third time, has a white light moment while he's on a known psychedelic, the belladonna treatment, where he's given belladonna every hour on the hour for what is it, 50 hours, I think. I think it's a little bit more than 2 days. So he's constantly being pumped with this chemical that's known to cause hallucinations. He has a white light moment with God. Sounds like one of my psychedelic experiences I've had. I've had like two or three like psychedelic hero dose experiences where I had white light moments and stuff. So he's having this drug induced experience where he sees God. He comes down from the treatment they're giving him and he tells his doctor. So literally, hopeless homeboy is in the hospital, pumped up with drugs. They're treating him. I'm not judging that. And it worked. So this is great. But then the doctor comes in and he convinces the doctor, because he's a salesman, he convinces the doctor to let him talk to other patients because now
Right.
he has some sort of medical authority because on his hallucination he met God. So now he's assuming his own medical authority, bamboozles Dr. Silkworth into letting him, the hopeless hallucinogenic person, talk to
Right.
other patients in the hospital about his solution to their addiction that could potentially kill them. So now Bill has an opinion and he's actually giving himself medical authority and actually convinced fucking Dr.
I
Silkworth,
know.
getting so passionate, that he can
I
talk to other
know.
patients. Did that ever happen at the VA? That patients decided they knew best and were going to go talk to other patients?
No, it would never have happened in modern medicine ever. And actually, when we go on to talk about this, it does talk about how Bill asked if he could for permission to talk to other patients. And the truth is, I used to say to the women I sponsored that they were just so desperate, that staff, the doctors and nurses, they're like, why not? What the hell? I mean, what do we got to lose if we let this crazy man talk to the other crazy men? Maybe I'll go have a cup of coffee for 5 minutes and I can take my eyes off Joe Blow over there in the corner. So, I mean, it would never happen today. We would never let a patient go and preach to other patients about God or about a path to recovery or anything. We wouldn't let him do that because it's just not cool, and it's not medically sound. It's crazy. Dr. Silkworth, it's crazy that you let Bill talk to the other patients in the treatment center. Period. You know,
100%. It's so bananas.
this has become a basis of a rapidly growing fellowship of these men and their families. This man and over 100 others appear to have recovered. I personally know scores of cases who were of the type with whom other methods had failed completely. Sure, you do.
This is all anecdotal.
I'm excited about the next page. It says, these men may well have a remedy for thousands of such situations. So, anyway, this is like a new epic in the annals of alcoholism. This is the part that makes me laugh every time. You may rely absolutely on anything they say about themselves. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you kidding me? I mean, first they tell us that we're liars and we're selfish and self-centered, self-righteous, full of ourselves and, and pathetic, but you can believe us. Why? Because we follow Bill? Because Bill
You
told
could
us
rely on anything they say about themselves.
anything,
Anything.
anything. What the fuck? I would never write that as a doctor, as a nurse. I would never say that. You can't rely on everything I say. And I'm a pretty honest person, but I'm going to make a mistake and I'm going to mislead you about something, I'm sure, or hurt your feelings or do something. You can't rely on everything I say. I thought that deer was dead. I swear to God. I was calling, I was getting ready to call the authorities to come and take it away and plan a little ritual funeral for this lame deer, but it was gone. It wasn't dead. So
Will you please have your children and your grandchildren and your great grandchildren leave it as a generational thing that in 90 years from now, people are still talking about the time that you saw the deer dead? Because we're 90 years later, we're still preaching these opinions as facts.
I actually even coined a term for it. It's called the dead deer phenomenon. And I did a whole talk at it about a church that I go to about our perceptions and how misleading they can be because that was the dead deer phenomenon. I would have swore it was dead. That I had convinced myself it was dead. How often do we do that? That's what I did in AA. I convinced myself that I was sick because they told me I was. I convinced myself that I needed to do this program. And I also convinced myself that I didn't, if I was having a problem, it was because I wasn't doing enough. I needed to do more service work, have more sponsees, read more literature, pray more, do more, whatever. It was all my fault. Whatever it was, like you've said before, like we've talked about, it's never AA. It's
Mhm.
always the member. It's always the person in AA. You just aren't, you're not doing enough, period.
I would
Go ahead.
love for you to solve this riddle for me, Carrie. And so the riddle is I can rely absolutely on everything everyone in Alcoholics Anonymous says. At the same time, none of them can trust their own thinking.
I know. It's an oxymoron. It's a dilemma, isn't it? You can't trust your thinking, but you can rely on me. Well, what I was told that this means that I can rely on anything they say is that this is an instruction for us that we have to keep our commitments. So the message here
Mm.
is I have to always keep my commitments because this says that I can be relied upon. So my sponsor used this as an opportunity to talk about keeping your commitments. But I've always thought that's
It,
ridiculous.
yeah, it's definitely giving compliance vibes.
Mhm. Yes, yes. Believe it. Whether you want to or not, just believe you have to trust these people.
Imagine you go to like a new group, right? Okay, you've just walked into this new yoga studio or meditation center or tennis club or anything, and they say you may rely on anything they say about themselves. What pops into my head is that this is a seed of not trusting yourself. You're supposed to rely on what they say, not on how you feel about what they say or what you know about what they say or what makes sense, or to take what they say as a data point and then look at all the data points and think for yourself. This is turning over your thoughts and your
Hmm.
self trust to other people. If you're going to rely on whatever they say about themselves, and when they mean themselves, they don't mean their personal narratives, they mean alcoholism or alcohol recovery, that you can rely on anything they say.
Absolutely. Not just you can absolutely. And absolutely means that it's perfect and it's the word. It's just you have to take it.
Okay. The physician who, at our request, gave us this letter has been kind enough to enlarge upon his views in another statement which follows. In this statement, he confirms that we who have suffered alcoholic torture must believe that the body of the alcoholic is quite as abnormal as his mind.
I've never understood that line. I've just never understood that line. Your body is as abnormal as your mind. I
Someone
know.
had me, my sponsor had me highlight it.
I got it
Oh, you
highlighted
got
too.
the whole page highlighted.
I
Holy
do.
crap and holy. So you're telling me that my body and my mind are abnormal. Go fuck yourself. You know what I mean? What the hell is that? I'm already hopeless and now you're telling me my body and my mind is abnormal? Like
Well,
you're literally putting shame into me. You're indoctrinating me into some baloney.
in my old book, which I pulled out, I have written that the reason that this says this, that the doctor wants us to impress upon us that if we're suffering from alcoholic torture, we have to believe a must. There's a must. And I have all the must underlined in my book. I don't know if you do, but I got all the must underlined in my book. It says that we have to believe this because we don't want to. It, because we don't believe this, we have to believe. We don't believe it, but we need to believe. Our body's as sick as our mind. So bottom line is you can't trust your mind or your body. Your whole person is sick. Not to mention, you've just experienced a lot of alcoholic torture. So whatever that is, I'm not sure. But let's just put the worst word you can get in there, torture, not, problems or illness or whatever you've experienced. It's torture. So that conjures up all kinds of ideas, stretched out and stretching somebody,
Mm.
torturing them with alcohol. But
Oh my
anyway,
God.
our body's
I
as
just
sick as
saw
our mind.
1984, the movie 1984, where they
Okay.
stretch his body out to torture him because he wasn't going along with the indoctrination. He was seeing the truth and he was critically thinking. They literally stretched his body out on a machine. I mean, this was written in the 40s and then filmed, I guess, in the 70s or whenever the movie was filmed. But he's literally on like where his body's being stretched apart because he won't go along with the ideology, the indoctrination.
Yeah, that's my idea of torture.
Oh my God. By the way, anybody who's like watching or listening to this, let us know what you think in the comments. What's coming up for you? Let's have this be a conversation for sure.
The body is as abnormal as the mind. It did not satisfy us to be told that we could not control our drinking just because we were maladjusted to life, that we were in full flight from reality, or were outright mental defects. These things were true to some extent. In fact, to a considerable extent with some of us, that we are sure that our bodies were sickened as well. In our belief, any picture of the alcoholic which leaves out this physical factor is incomplete. As a nurse, that whole paragraph has never made any sense to me. It's just never made any sense to me that I don't know that our body is as abnormal as our mind. I just don't understand that.
I have the physical factor like underlined.
Oh, yeah.
Physical factor. And then there's an arrow from physical and it points down to the word allergy in the next paragraph to emphasize this allergy. The physical factor. Okay, so let's talk about the physical factor from like what we understand as modern day science. And anybody who, has facts or thoughts on this, definitely leave it in the comments below. I don't know all the answers here, but I do know that there are some brains that are physically different that do like to drink more than other brains, meaning that I know that and I hold all labels loosely, including the ADHD label, but I know that in ADHD brains that there is even up to like an 80% what's called dopamine deficit. So that kind of a brain is more motivated to seek dopamine. And depending upon which study you look at, ADHDers are 5 to 10 times more likely to develop an alcohol addiction because we are looking for that dopamine. So I've been diagnosed ADHD, and the way that I look at that is that I might have differences. I have neurological differences that make me more prone to doing things where I'm getting dopamine being released, so that more than somebody who doesn't have those deficiencies, I'm trying to get it. So I might be getting it from alcohol, from potato chips, from men, from spirituality. I'm thinking about things that AA kind of had me in that mind frame that I was addicted to. Because when I was in AA, anything that I did in excess was considered like an addiction, right? And I was supposed to stop
Hmm.
being like, my sponsor's like, you're addicted to male attention when I was like 2 years sober. So I had to stop getting male attention. So I went on this whole thing where I no longer flirted. I stopped flirting. I gave up flirting. I gave up like all these things, because I wasn't allowed to get high off male attention. So I had to like retreat from all of that. And so I don't pathologize everything anymore. The way that I look at it now is I may have differences in my brain, and those may be what is called ADHD or autism or whatever. And I hold that loosely because I don't want to limit myself. And that may make me more likely to want to do things that increase certain chemicals in my brain so I can be regulated or feel good. And
Hmm.
that may include dopamine. And that may make me more of a seeker. And maybe that made me more of like a hunter back in the cave days, right? Like I was more wanting to doing the dopamine seeking things. So there's reasons in evolution why I could say maybe this makes sense. I'm also just making that up. But okay, so if that's true, that I have things about my body and mind, or that would really be brain, not mind. So if I have things different about, I guess it depends on how you look at it, then maybe I do actually seek dopamine. And because I do, then I need to be aware of that. And how do I hold that? Like, how do I want to get my dopamine knowing that I'm going to want to get dopamine? Not I'm powerless or I have fatally progressive disease or I need to trust everything absolutely that somebody else says. The way
Hmm.
that I hold that now, and like I've seen overlaps in genes too. There's no like specific gene. I don't know. When I did my gene testing and I did like one of my parents' gene testing, we both had genes that were associated with alcohol addiction and with ADHD. And it's the same genes that I was looking, very actually the same genes,
Right.
right? And so the way that I hold that now for myself is that because I likely have a brain that is seeking out for dopamine at a higher rate than typical brains, whatever, that how am I going to plan to get my dopamine? Do I want to get it
Hmm.
from walks in nature? I get it from purpose. So when I'm pursuing a purpose, like making this podcast with you, having conversations that enliven me, even though we're deconstructing, I'm still having fun connecting with you. I'm
Hmm.
getting dopamine right now. I'm drinking a coffee, so I'm getting dopamine from that. I'm getting dopamine because I feel a friendship connection with you, and I'm getting dopamine because I'm also like excited about getting free from this cult religion that controlled me for a decade, right? So I find positive ways to get my dopamine needs met without having to pathologize it, make myself wrong, or consider myself fundamentally bodily and mentally different than my fellows, right? It's kind of like
Right.
taking care of myself because my skin is paler than most skins in Indonesia and the sun is stronger in Indonesia. When I'm living in Indonesia, I might need to accommodate for that because I have less protection. Where if I was born there and had therefore darker skin, I can tolerate the sun better, right? But
Yes.
because I don't, I'm going to be more likely to burn. So I might want to wear sunblock or limit my time in the sun. So that's a bodily difference that might change my
Mhm.
behavior, but that doesn't have to be pathologized. It's something to be
Right.
aware of it when it comes to self care and how you live, right? I hope that skin reference wasn't controversial, but it's a difference in our bodies, but it's not
Yes.
a pathology. It's not
No.
wrong. It's not bad. It's not forever recovery bullshit.
Exactly. I think that awareness is important. It's important to be aware of what you might be. For instance, I know in my family that mom's dad had a problem with alcohol. My dad's grandpa had a problem with alcohol. I know that there's people with problems drinking alcohol in my family. And my kids, because of me, knew that they might be predisposed. Maybe that's part of our genetics. Maybe it's part of our brain. Maybe it's a learned behavior. I don't know. But like you said, it
Mm,
doesn't have to be this malady. It doesn't have to be a bad thing, a moral thing. We don't have to be sick of mind and body, for God's sake. We, like you said, we just have to be aware and take precautions like a sunscreen, put a hat on, you know, whatever. Drink a glass of water between every beer. I don't know, but just, plan your day,
right,
knowing, taking in all the
right.
facts.
And there are variations in humans in different qualities or traits or whatever in our bodies. There's even some people who aren't able to process alcohol because they of a
Right.
metabolism that they're lacking or whatever. It comes actually to the serenity prayer, doesn't it? What can you change and what do you need to accept? I think that line got really blurred in AA because we were accepting things that we could actually change.
Oh, it was just they used it to accept everything. I mean, that's the bottom line.
Except acceptance is the answer, Carrie.
Yes, it is. Acceptance is the answer to all our problems. Whenever anything is bothering us, it's about us. Period.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and Rule 52, by the way.
Yes. Yes, Rule 52. Don't take yourself so seriously. Don't take yourself
Oh
so.
my God, we should do a whole podcast called Rule 52 and just be fucking goofballs.
Well, we could. We definitely could. When I look at my big book and the old ones too, and all the stuff that I have written in there, it kind of makes me laugh. Anyway,
Totally. All right. The doctor's theory that we have an allergy to alcohol interests us. As laymen, our opinion as to its soundness may, of course, mean little. I call bullshit right there. But as
Mm-hmm.
an ex problem drinker, we can say that his explanation makes good sense. It explains many things for which we cannot otherwise account. Yeah, he wrote a good story, like great narrative, like great plot line. Great, great. This is a great narrative, Dr. Silkworth, that you're marrying with Bill, who all of a sudden takes psychedelics and has a God moment. Like, who fucking hasn't? If you've had a hero's dose, who hasn't met God? Okay, have you met God on psychedelics? Let us know in the comments. And after you met God on psychedelics, did you walk around as a medical authority telling everybody else how to solve their problems? Because I sure as fuck didn't. I came back, I was like, wow, that was really cool. That was really interesting. Look at consciousness and what consciousness can do. What's the meaning of life? Okay, but I never went around to a hospital and told everybody how to live their life based upon my psychedelic experience. They would probably keep me in the hospital these days if I tried to do that, or give me a straitjacket, if you know what I mean.
Well, and it's all, I also believe that this is another sales tactic because even Marty Mann, that's what got her. It's an allergy. That means I can't control it. It's an allergy. That excuses me for all my behavior because if you have an allergy, you can't help it. It's you can't help it. You go into anaphylactic shock and you need a shot. It's not your fault. You have an
Mm.
allergy. So that helped sell early members of Alcoholics Anonymous, calling it an allergy. And it's BS. It is not an allergy. There is no allergy involved in an addiction to alcohol.
They take the blame off you. They're like, it's not your fault. You didn't do it. You couldn't have done better. It's genetic. You were born an alcoholic. You were an alcoholic before you ever drank. All this shit that doesn't even make any
Hmm.
sense. So it's not your fault. So they give you this, it's not your fault, which is a sales tactic, right? Take the blame
Yes.
off of you, make you feel good about yourself, and then position everything to sell their product. So, okay, it's
Hmm.
not your fault, but all you have to do is conform to my thoughts. You're getting sleepy. Do as I say. Give away all your time to my group. Sell the books for me. You are now going to work for me for the rest of your life. You're going to sponsor people. You're going to clean up the trash. You're going to sweep the room. You're going to put out chairs. You're going to do coffee. You're going to drive people to the grocery store. You're going to pay phone bills. You're going to drive people all around. You are getting sleepy. You're doing as I say. It's not your fault, but now you're mine. Your mind. I'm taking over your mind. You are thought controlled. Abracadabra, do as I say for the rest of your life, but it's not your fault. So we get the relief that it's not our fault. Then we have to surrender our will and our life to Bill's ideas.
Hmm. Right. Right. It's true. That was good. I was right there with you. It's not an allergy. It's not an allergy, but it sucks you in. It sucks you in
Yeah.
because we would like to think we're not responsible for all the trouble that we've caused. I would love that. I would love to think that about everything that I do, that I can't help myself. It's an allergy. I just, binge
Yeah.
watched a Netflix show, but it's an allergy.
What did you watch?
I don't even know anymore. There's so many dumb ones, but I can't remember even.
I legit watched The Zodiac Killer last night. It was only 3 episodes, but yeah, wow. These
I
people,
love
man.
serial killer stuff. I know I'm very morbid here, but I love anything that has to do with a serial killer. And I listen to a lot of
Why?
podcasts, and I what do I like serial killers? Is that what you said?
Yeah,
Why?
why?
I have no idea. I just think
Mm.
it's fascinating. I think the whole thing is fascinating. Obviously, I don't support them or want to be one or want to meet one ever, but I think it's fascinating the whole process and how sick people can be. I listen to a lot of podcasts and crime podcasts, and just one that I listened to yesterday it was the Deck podcast. They were talking about a case where a woman was brutally murdered and her body was desecrated by a man that probably she met in AA. So there you go. I mean, it just all, yeah, it happens. He was in the recovery center that was located right next to where she volunteered, and she had special needs. And then, anyway, that's where they think they met, was him at the recovery center. So it's just everywhere you turn, there's some mention. If you start to look for it, it's kind of like when you're pregnant. If you've ever been pregnant, then everybody's suddenly pregnant. When you're pregnant, it's when you're looking for the creeps in AA, you see them everywhere. But when I was in AA,
Yeah,
I had blinders on. I didn't see them because I was told, don't look behind the curtain, Carrie. Don't look back there. Don't look at those guys. Just let it be. Let it work itself out. If it's not of God, it won't last and they'll leave. So,
it takes all the responsibility away from us. Like the yeah, I mean when it comes to the predators in AA, it really is like my sponsor told me I was like, yeah, the predator that I've told you about forever, that you knew about before I told you because you've been sober 14 years and I'm brand new. But the predator that's like moving around our room, like in our home group or whatever, who everyone fucking knows about, like he raped my friend. She was more empathetic, right? But basically, the message she gave me was there's your business, everybody else's business, and God's business. Stay on your side of the street. And so
mhm.
that's why it keeps happening. Now, if I was there now and what I know, well, I wouldn't be there now, right? But if I was in a group like that now and that happened now, I would go to the police station.
Totally.
I wouldn't fuck
Totally.
around with a sponsor. I wouldn't tell a sponsor. I would go to the authorities and I would say, this is the person, go get evidence, do the kit, do whatever you need to do. Like, no, this is
Yes.
not to be handled in the group. No, it's
Mm-mm.
ridiculous.
No.
I don't feel like a need to try to make AA safer. That's not at all what I feel I want to be a part of because I feel that the AA ideology is harmful in and of itself. Like as we're talking about, it's harmful. So to me, there's no reforming AA. You would have to burn it. It's like trying to reform a building that was in like Chernobyl or is totally toxic. You got to destroy the entire thing and start over. Like it's
Hmm.
not about remodeling or putting in new carpeting. It's not like that. It's don't change the furniture. The
No.
entire structure down to the roots and the foundation, the entire thing is poisonous. To me, there's no reforming AA. At the same time, I don't think people should stop going if they want to go. And I don't think someone who feels that they want to go should still go and it should still exist. I don't have any desire about whether or not it should no longer exist. Whatever. Who am I to say that? But to me,
Right.
I don't think there's reforming it. There's no way to make it better. You'd have to burn it down. So you might as well just say, fuck this shit and go to smart recovery or something else.
Yeah, it's like I don't go to the Catholic Church, but people do. But I don't think that they should stop having the Catholic Church, but I think people should know what happens in the Catholic Church, which is like I think people should know what happens in AA and that there should be
Yeah.
honesty and that that they should know that maybe it didn't grow it grew out of toxic soil and that you've been misled and that you aren't powerless and that you can think for yourself and that you don't have to stay there. I think that's the thing that bothers me so much is I know women still in AA and men. Part of it is that's their whole social life now, and they don't know where they would
Yeah.
go, who their friends would be if they left. And I get that. I get that. But the
Yeah.
other part is they're simply afraid if they leave, they will die. They're afraid that if they
Yeah.
leave, they'll be shunned, and they will. They're afraid they'll
Yeah.
lose friends, and they will. I've had people, unfriend me on Facebook, and more than I'm probably even aware of. And I'm sure that there are people who are talking about how Carrie is ruining AA for the newcomer and killing people. I mean, we've talked about this before. I'm not killing anybody, okay? And I'm not drunk because I'm not going to AA. I am sober. I mean, that's I just because I'm not doing the AA ideology and I'm not following Bill's program does not mean that I'm not sober. You're sober if you don't drink, okay? I don't drink, so I'm sober. And it's just so much BS. And the friend that reached out to me, who we used to have the same sponsor, she was telling her sponsor how she got laid off from her job because she has some health problems and that she's feeling bad because her partner has had the same job for 36 years and she's kind of regretting some of her career choices. And her sponsor fires back, it's because you're an alcoholic. Alcoholics make poor decisions and blamed it all on her alcoholism. And I'm like, yeah, that's just BS. I mean, she's just beating you when you're down. How would you like to call somebody and say, I got laid off my job because of my health and I'm regretting some of my work choices, and then be told, well, it's your fault? It's because of the stupid things you did, Carrie, or whatever,
Yeah.
because you're an alcoholic. It's just wrong. It's just not compassionate. It's not loving. It's not kind.
And it's disempowering because also what it's doing is saying, you're fucked, don't even try. It's the learned
Mhm.
helplessness. It's the baby elephant on the rope that's tethered to a stake in the ground that realizes it can't pull the stake out. And then, even as an adult, when it's strong, never even tries to escape because it believes the lie that it can't when it easily could break free now. So, if you believe that all this stuff happens because you're a so-called alcoholic, then you're going to stop trying at a certain period of time and get into the learned helplessness. So it's stunting our potential in all areas.
Mhm.
It's That's what's so harmful about it to me. Not just that you have to get the shame hit in the moment, but that you're going to dumb yourself down your entire life by not trying, because why even bother is the
Mhm.
message, because you're an alcoholic. You're
Mhm.
supposed to accept your lot in life, and these are your people, and you're not a normie. And
Right. Yeah, you're not normal. You don't have normal thinking, and you never did. Really? I just don't buy that. What is normal thinking in the
don't
first
overthink
place?
it.
Yeah, don't overthink it, but
Yeah.
think.
That was so confusing.
Think.
I still don't
So
understand that.
confused. Me neither, Kirsten. No clue.
Think was framed on. They had the AA sayings framed in the clubhouse that I always went to, and it was the
Hmm.
color of Pepto Bismol in there. It was so weird. So they yeah, and they had think, but they had it upside down. And I was like, wait, are we supposed to think? Are we upside down thinking? Are we not thinking? Is it alcoholic thinking? Do I trust my thinking? What's this thinking shit? And wait, I'm
Hmm.
supposed to trust absolutely everything you say, but I can't think and you can't think? What the fuck? Who's doing the
Right.
thinking? Is it Bill's thinking?
I think
Bill's
there's
thinking
some
got me here?
a lot of mixed messages. A lot of mixed
Bill's
messages.
Bill's best thinking got me to AA, not my best thinking. Bill's
Thank
best
you.
thinking got me to AA because he sent Marty Mann out to do the PR campaign, which is why we need a new Marty Mann for
We do.
2025 that is about the truth, not about propaganda. And Bill's best thinking got me to AA because he got himself into media, because I knew about AA before I ever walked in the door, because Bill's best thinking told me what AA is, which was a lie. So I walked in on Bill's best thinking. Bill's best thinking said
Hmm.
AA is the way. That wasn't my thinking. That came from Bill and Bill's efforts
Yep.
and Bill's leadership. Yes, Bill was a leader, guys. Yes, there is a leader in AA. You say that AA can't be a cult because there's no leader. I can name a bunch of freaking leaders. Marty Mann was a leader in AA. There's a lot of leaders in AA. What do you mean
Yep.
AA has no leaders? Are you confused? Have you taken leadership from anybody? Have you given leadership to anybody in AA? There's leaders everywhere you look.
Totally. Totally leaders. All kinds of leaders. There's always a leader. I've been a leader. You've been a leader. If you sponsor somebody, you're a leader. The
Yeah.
big book is a leader. This is the leader. This is the solution. So, you could make big book your higher power. God is a higher power. God's the leader of this group, this cult. It's God.
Yeah. Did you ever, is it called The Big Lebowski with Dude? Where the guy is like named Dude or
Yes.
whatever? It's been a long time since I've seen it. But what I remember is that line that goes with our chapter we're reading, which is, Dude, but that's just like your opinion, man. Can we say that about the whole book? This is
I,
not a fact. You're not going to die. It's just somebody's opinion.
so we work out our solution on the spiritual plane as well as the altruistic plane. We favor hospitalization for the alcoholic who is very jittery or befogged. More often than not, it is imperative that a man's brain be cleared before he is approached, as he has then a better chance of understanding and accepting what we have to offer. I think that's funny because they didn't wait for Bill's brain to get clear, did they? No. In fact, they don't wait for anybody's brain to get clear. They go in the hospital. That's where they went, Bill and Dr. Bob, to talk to the third Bill, the second Bill, the third guy in AA. He was in the hospital. He was detoxing. They didn't wait for his brain to get befogged because you know what? If it was totally befogged, They probably would have said, "Fuck you, man. I'm gonna go have a drink. I'm not
Yeah.
listening to you." You got to get them when they're down, when they're vulnerable. That's when you go 12 step, not 13 step, hopefully. Or that's when you go 12 step them, when they're down and they're desperate and they're broken. You got to get them in, got to get in there right then. Take your people and go do a 12 step call. Don't wait. Don't wait till their
Totally.
brain is not foggy.
Totally. Oh
Oh.
my God. But then this the solution they say is the spiritual and the altruistic. So they're laying the seeds for the spiritual solution means you have to find God. We're going to convert you into a Bill's religion. And altruistic, which means you have to free labor. You have to give away your time for free in order to you got to give it away to keep it. In order to stay here, you got to perpetuate the program. So it's about converting into God and exploiting free labor. That's the solution.
Mhm. Yep. And I even have altruistic underlined. And I would tell the women that I sponsor, this word means that we care about others. We care about them and we take care of them. That's what we do.
But you know what's so interesting? When I
Y-
care about others and take care of them, I do it because I care about them, not because I'm told I'm going to die if I don't do it.
Exactly. Exactly. Not because you're told that you're going to drink if you don't do it. You know, you're going to drink if you don't help these people, Carrie. And then I helped you. So now you owe it to me and the program to help that other person. Because if you stop helping people, then AA could die. You could be responsible for AA dying, not just other alcoholics. The whole program of AA could go away because you stop indoctrinating others into the program.
100%. And the guy who's about to turn 50 years sober in AA, who was commenting all over my YouTube yesterday, he even said that when he was saying, like, I'm sorry that you're no longer there to help the newcomer, wasn't somebody there to help you. I'm like, bro, this is called emotional manipulation
Hmm.
and a guilt trip. AA's guilt no longer has a hold on me.
Totally.
One of the core problems with AA is the people doing the harm don't recognize that they're doing the harm. Then he wrote me back and he said something to the order of emotional manipulation question mark, that's all on you. I'm like, wait, so you're blaming me for your behavior? You literally just emotionally manipulated me. All I did was call out what you did. I just put a mirror up, like literally describing that what you did, and then you're saying it's on me. Oh God, even reading it right now, I'm like, bro, this is so manipulative. That's what the problem is, that they don't realize how manipulative they are. So he basically was saying, no, AA is not harmful. AA has helped millions of people. But he said millions of people have nothing but positive things to say about AA. I'm like, who are these millions? And nothing but positive? Are you sure millions of people have only positive? That is just obviously not true about anything. Even if you love somebody or
Mm-mm.
something, you don't only have positive things to say about it. Of course, you have some negative things to say about it. That's just being a human. So he's denying any harm in AA in our conversation. And then he's saying, I am sure that you are more harmful with your channel, your YouTube channel, than AA is. And I'm like, but you just said there's no harm in AA. So you don't understand what I'm doing, but you're sure that what I'm doing is more harmful. But how could that's like saying an apple versus something that I'm not even understanding? I'm going to compare an apple and something mysterious. For sure, the mysterious thing is more harmful than an apple. I don't know what the fuck it is. But for sure, whatever I don't know is more harmful than this thing right here. How can you compare something you know with something you have no clue about? So I'm like, what you're saying doesn't even make any sense. So I don't know. I don't even know why I like comment back sometimes. When somebody's trapped into the ideology, they really are. I mean, I don't mean to be rude, but it's like stuck on stupid. And that's how I was when I was in it.
Yeah.
You're stuck on stupid because you're not critically thinking. Your critically thinking has been disabled. It's literally like disables us. So you don't even know that you're not making
Hmm.
any sense. And you say things that are literally just parroted stuff, but you don't know that you're stuck in a group think. So it is like we get stuck on the stupid where we can't think. Not that the individuals are stupid, but the mentality is stupid because, or lacking critical thinking. I don't mean this to come out like rude, but you're not able to think critically about what you're saying, what the other person's saying, what the facts are saying. So it really is like you're stuck on this limited worldview. It's the most bizarre thing to be possessed by an ideology.
It's very black and white. I mean, normally on any other topic, let's say politics, I can simply say, we just have to agree to disagree. Or I
Yes.
can also say, you may be right. You may be right. You know, I don't have to be right about everything. I don't have to be right. And I'm not going to argue with you because I learned a long time ago, I'm not going to change your mind because you're possessed by your political ideologies. So I'm not going to change your mind. So I'm not going to try.
Yeah. Carrie, I really appreciate you sharing all your opinions on Dr. Silkworth's opinions. Unfortunately, his opinions have been interpreted as facts. And fortunately, a lot of your current opinions are actually factual.
Well, I might have to start campaigning to be the next Marty Mann and figure out how I can at least locally talk to people about the harm of promoting Alcoholics Anonymous as the only way of recovery from substance use disorder. Maybe I could get in the door with a medical degree and say, listen, I've experienced, I
Mm-hmm.
have a medical background, and I just want to tell you my thoughts about this, about how I don't think you should be sending criminals to AA mandatory. That doesn't even seem legal. Can you make people go to church? You know, and I don't think that you should be having your AA be mandatory in treatment, you know. And maybe it's not as much. You know, I've been out of the loop. Maybe they're promoting more smart recovery. Maybe they're promoting more of the other methods, but I think I'll just have to work on being the next Marty Mann. What do you think about that?
I love it. I love it. I don't know if they are because I recently, as in 2025, I'm not sure if you saw that podcast or not, watched the talk of RFK Jr., who is ahead currently
Ah,
ahead of health in America. And he is saying basically AA is the way, and he's promoting a disease that gets stronger when you're sober. He's promoting religious conversion as a solution. He's promoting the need to get brainwashing to solve your addiction
mm,
problem. He's promoting the entire 12-step ideology. And what's especially disheartening for me is that he has a lot of authority. Not that authority works on all of us,
mhm,
but he is a Kennedy. He is 42 years sober,
mhm,
which does mean something to a lot of people. And congratulations, that's amazing.
mhm,
And he is head of American Health in the
mhm,
government. There's all the
mhm,
authorities that can go to
mhm,
him or be projected onto him.
mhm,
Not that everyone's going to be doing that, but when I see one of the heads of health in America
mhm,
talking about a fatal progressive disease, I am just like heartbroken. Nothing against him
mhm.
personally. I don't really care about his politics or his views on anything else in this conversation other than you have a lot of authority and you just promoted a cult religion as a solution to addiction on an international stage because that's on YouTube and everyone can see it.
Yeah.
So I don't know that American government is like on the right track right now. I don't mind AA being an option on the table, but to say it is the table is wrong. To say there are 20
Mhm,
different ways that we think that like we found to be helpful. Here they all are and AA is over here. But here's the other ones
mhm.
instead of just AA is the way. Like it's so ugh. It's 2025. What the fuck?
What's next? Somebody's going to tell us that the tooth fairy's real. I think that that's just what I have to remember, that no matter what, I know my truth. You can't tell me any different because I know my truth and I trust my truth. And that's what I think people have to do. They have to think critically. They have to think, do I believe this? They have to think, why would I believe this? You know, and I had
Yeah.
somebody contact me the other day saying, if you're not gonna go to AA, where should I tell my friend to go? And you know, and I recommended Smart Recovery, and I talked about the Sinclair method, and I said if she does go to AA, she has to know the truth about AA and know what she's getting into, and
Mhm.
that's the hard part. And maybe that's my campaign right
Yeah.
there. Maybe I'll get a sign on the side of a bus, you know, that
Oh
says
my God.
something. I don't
Uh,
know.
Carrie, okay, so I did a USA road trip van lifestyle in a converted vehicle in 2018 and I loved it. And I know that that was what you did. You did like a van life adventure in America, like, and that was part of what helped pop you out of AA because you had that distance, right? I think that's what you said. And what if we did a Kirsten
Mhm.
and Carrie like van life adventure? AA is a cult, and we drive across the country and we shake every medical practitioner. Let's actually like rent out the bus that already says AA is dangerous and take that thing around the country,
Yes.
load it up with whoever wants to come along, and go let the people know.
Yeah, every corner,
let's get net. Let's
everywhere.
get Netflix to film it. Let's do it.
Yes. Oh my God. Okay, you get on the phone with your contacts and you figure that out, Kirsten, and we'll do it. I'm with you. I'm retired. I can go right now. I got a bag packed. Let's do it.
Oh my God, that's so funny. Thank you so much, Carrie, for coming on the Sobriety Bestie podcast today. I'm going to link your Substack below for anybody who wants to follow along with what you write about deconstructing AA. And I appreciate hearing your opinions on the doctor's opinions and your opinions in general on deconstructing AA ideology. And I've shared a lot of my opinions here today too. This is a reminder that obviously this is about whoever's listening or watching. It's about you finding your own opinions and what makes sense for you, evaluating all the facts, thinking clearly, and trusting yourself, and finding what makes the most sense to you as a path to sobriety, to recovery, to abstinence, to harm management, or to really anything in life is to awaken your own critical thinking. That is the real thing that I hope that comes across in every piece of content that I make, is that it's about trusting yourself and critically thinking. I don't know all the answers.
Mhm.
Carrie might, but maybe Carrie doesn't know all the answers either. Dr. Silkworth sure as shit doesn't know all the answers, but critical thinking is how we can find our own conclusions.
Team Freedom.
Team freedom. Yeah. Thanks, Carrie. This is so fun. Yay. I
All right.
appreciate
Thank you,
you so
Kirsten.
much. All right. Bye, Carrie.